Dr. Krar, my fellow panelists of this session, distinguished Vice Chancellors. First of all, let me thank Ikrar and Punjab HEC for providing me this opportunity to have this interactive session. I suggested to him that I want to listen to the Vice Chancellors who are really in the field to some of the proposals which I have advanced in my article, which appeared at dawn. But I'm grateful that he thought otherwise, and I must say that I benefited a great deal from Dr. Sohail, Nadimul Haq, Dr. Shahid, and Dr. Javed Laghari's presentations, which provide a lot of empirical support or substantiation to what the essence of my article was. So I think this is a much better way. But I still want you to be openly critical or identify the weaknesses of the argument and the proposals. That's the purpose I very much like this session to be. I don't know how many of you have really read the article, because if you have, then I will not spend a lot of time on that. And then I will have more time for having interaction, what is on your mind, and engage in the dialogue rather than have this. So I don't know what your preference is, whether you have read the... Okay. These are all being told you that we have enrollment ratios, student body, institutions, which have proliferated, advanced degrees, PhD. This is not something new. It has been explained to you. Then we had growth without quality, the expansion paradox, the early momentum, the funding wall. Everybody complains about HEC having really been blocked at 63 billion for such a long time, and there is no growth. And yesterday I saw a report that 75 billion are being given in the PSTP. But you don't have the universities for brick and mortar. You have to invest in faculty, you have to invest in the students and in some of the initiatives which have been explained here. So if you don't give them the recurrent expenditure but keep on raising the PSTP, the incentive structure is totally antithetical to what really should be happening. And therefore, the big question which I pose is, because I happen to be a member of the task force and the steering committee, which transferred the responsibility from University Grants Commission to HEC. But let me say the genesis of this article is that I have been associated with academia since 2008, when I completed my term as the chairman of the National Commission for Government Reforms, which was a cabinet position. So a lot of journalists came to me and said, "Sir, आप तो minister रह चुके हो, governor रह चुके हो, आप एक छोटी सी यूनिवर्सिटी जिसमें 2,500 स्टूडेंट पढ़ते हैं, उसको हेड क्यों करते हो?" मैंने कहा कि that was my job, this is my passion. So unless you have passion as the Vice Chancellor or as the head of the institution, and you do not really think this is a routine 9-to-5 job, I don't think you will be able to succeed. So that was the beginning. And then I have been member of all the search committees of the Vice Chancellors, except for Punjab and KP. Sohail was with me in Balochistan. KP, I was in Sindh and the federal government, Urdu University and other universities. And then I've been visiting since my retirement from the government in 2021, the universities all over the country. And I'm learning from the problems the universities are facing, the students are facing. So it's a accumulation of all the learning which I have done through both the visits, the studies, as well as my own experience. So it's just not that one evening I sat down and wrote an article for the Dawn newspaper. So what I'm trying to say to you is that degrees without jobs, you have already learned from Nadim's point of view. He has done some empirical studies, although he says it's not a representative sample, but at least it's a subset which enlightens us to some of the problems which I have provided here. And then we have STEM deficit, and Dr. Lagari spent a lot of time explaining as to what the STEM deficit is doing, and which is not the beginning at the university. The STEM subjects should be compulsory at the 8th grade onwards, so that the students, when they enter the universities, they are all quite well versed and very competent in doing the things which they are required. And I think the AI being introduced at the university level is very good, but I think you have to have a backward integration with the colleges and the high schools. Otherwise, you would have to spend a lot of time at the university level in order to bring them to that level. And then we have governance and in reverse, which is, I'm sorry to say, that I got a lot of complaints from the faculty members when I visited the universities that the universities have become a replica of bureaucracy. Everything has to be done through proper channel, that you have to send even a very urgent, request that I'm going for a scholarship paid by somebody else for improving my degree. And the application is turned down because I have not sent it through the head of the department, through the dean, the registrar, and the vice chancellor's office is very unhappy with me. Now, that is not what the universities are. My doors were open to every student and every faculty member, and I would take decisions on time in the larger interests of the university. That is what the vice chancellor should be, not really going through this protocol and through this hullabaloo of all the hierarchy. Second, I found that the whole concept of provincial HECs, provincial education departments, federal HEC, and federal Ministry of Education, they've become very powerful. When Sohail was the executive director, he enjoyed the powers of the secretary to the government, which means he was a principal accounting officer. And he could take decisions in the larger interests of HEC because he knew what HEC's requirements are. Now you have to go to the section officer, deputy secretary, joint secretary in the Ministry of Education. I mean, that is not how you can run a higher education commission. And I think the other thing which I found, and this has been repeated so many times by Sohail, Javed, and also by Nadeem, that there is too much emphasis on even the vice chancellor having PhD degrees and having so many publications in peer-reviewed journals. I give you the example of one person who is unfortunately dead, Nisar Ahmad Siddiqui. He was a bureaucrat, a commissioner of Sakkar. And look at where he has brought Sakkar IBA, which is really competing with the Karachi IBA. The students who are graduating from Sakkar are in the same league as the Karachi IBA. He was not an academic. He was not publications of 15 journal articles. He created community colleges in Khairpur, in Shikarpur, which are now feeder grounds for higher education with very high degree of preparation. So this whole monopoly that only the PhDs are the persons who can become the vice chancellors. I've sat on the research committees, impressive papers in impact, but I said, in your own university, how many new varieties, for example, agriculture university, have you brought in, which has benefited the area? I was Agriculture University, Faisalabad, heading a study on Pakistan's agriculture research system, and Ikrar was with me at that time. You have NIPCHI, you have NIPAF, you have university and Ayub Agriculture Research Institute in one place. And when I compared the yield per acres, average yields of Faisalabad with Toba Singh, which is next door, there was not material significant difference. I said, what are all these universities and research institutions doing if they're not able to raise the yields per acre in their own backyard? So those are the vice chancellors, I'm sorry to say, who are very good in academics, but they have no idea as far as the vision or the financial management or the human resource management is concerned. So we have to broaden the pool. I mean, Oxford University, for example, now has a vice chancellor whose background is in corporate sector, not in academia. So the world is changing, and I think we have to be very much aware of that. So my architecture is a three-tier system. One is the teaching universities, which I think is very essential to provide the basic education in sciences as well as social sciences and technology to the students who don't have the access to the larger universities. For example, Bhakkar, Liya, Muzaffargarh, Rajanpur, they should have the teaching universities. And the teaching universities should prepare people for degrees. And these universities, for example, you have become Government College University has become Government College University Faisalabad, Government College Lahore, which is one of the finest institutions, has become Government College University. I think they should be allowed to remain. Those universities should have a different mandate as compared to the teaching universities. Then you have applied research universities, where you have degrees as well as applied research in the particular area. For example, my very favorite example, which has been quoted here, is also that Sialkot, Gujranwala, Gujarat, which I visit quite often, is a cluster for industrial growth. Now, the universities in Gujarat, Gujranwala, and Sialkot should have a consortium where they share the facilities, the faculty members, depending on their expertise in order to solve the real-world problems of standardization, of technology upgradation, of the upskilling, those things which the international buyers are asking for today. That is what there should be. This is the teaching and applied universities. And finally, you have research universities, which should be state-of-the-art, as Suhail said, looking for the future, looking for knowledge creation. And in my view, a very successful model was Quaid-e-Azam University when it was established. It was only a postgraduate degree awarding institutions. And it really, at least I know for sure as far as economics department is concerned, produced the top leading economists of Pakistan. And same was the case in the scientists. The science faculties attracted the best teachers. So they will have international affiliations, visitors coming to those universities which are research institutions, and carrying out this state-of-the-art emerging technologies. So that is my proposed, three-tier. The Vice Chancellor of ITU suggested to me when we were coming out that we should have a general and, specialized distinction. And I said, no. I personally feel that all the scientists and all the computer scientists and IT specialists and medical graduates should have a compulsory exposure to social sciences and humanities. And all the social sciences and humanities students should have exposure in mathematics. That is how you have the cross-disciplinary. You first have to be a good human being before you become a good professional. And for being a good human being, you have to have the exposure to liberal arts and humanities. So that is my proposal. I look forward. I condensed my opening remarks to 15 minutes because I wanted to hear from you and the other colleagues who are present online. So it is a great opportunity. It is always challenging for me to learn and listen from my distinguished colleagues. Thank you very much.